What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. So today is a really exciting one because I'm doing this, I think I'm going to turn it into a series actually on my channel, where I shop at a local bookstore, like an independent bookstore, in any new different city that I travel to. 2 days ago, boyfriend and I got back from Savannah, Georgia. That was where we decided to go on vacation this summer. It was either East Coast or West Coast, and I said West and he said East. East won out because we wanted to go to the Georgia Aquarium, which was pretty awesome. So that's kind of why we were in Georgia. So we ended up driving 4 hours to Savannah. The first day actually was like a really busy travel day because we had a 6 a.m. flight, and then we did the aquarium and immediately left Atlanta and drove straight through to Savannah. There was actually a couple of places on my little like bucket list of places that I wanted to go and shop. Of course, I had to stop into some local bookstores while I was there. I actually ended up going into one, and that was it. I had a couple more places on my list, but we really wanted to get to the ocean, so we were like kind of antsy to honestly leave and drive to the coast. There are several different places in Savannah though, literally walkable distance from each other, that you could go and do some really fun book shopping. So the place that I ended up going to was the Book Lady bookstore. So cute, I loved it. It was one of those very cramped, creaky wood floors, like books stacked on the floor, every shelf full kind of bookstores. Like you kind of feel like you're doing this the whole time, which I actually really love. You could definitely get lost in there. It's super tiny again. It's really, really small if you're claustrophobic. You're probably not going to enjoy your time. I had to use the wide angle lens on my iPhone for a couple of different shots because you literally couldn't see, like I couldn't get far back enough because there would be like a shelf or something in my way to like film a full clip of something. So it is really tiny. I think it was maybe new and used. They ended up charging me new book prices, which I'll get into at the end because I'm not totally sure if these books are new or not, but anyway. So I believe it was a couple of blocks, maybe more than a couple, north of Forsyth Park. So the Forsyth Park was the first thing that we did that morning. Just walked around. I honestly could have walked around for like hours just taking photos of all of the houses and the Spanish moss hanging from the trees. It's such a really pretty city. Yeah, we were pretty antsy to get to the ocean, so we ended up only spending maybe like an hour or two that morning in like the actual heart of Savannah, like the historic district. They did have a Flannery O'Connor section, which I thought was really cool. At first I wondered why, and then I flipped over a book and I realized she's from Savannah. I think that's where she had her house and she raised her peacocks and all of that. So I almost got a Flannery O'Connor book, but I knew I probably wouldn't get around to reading it anytime soon because I'm doing my Reading Around the World challenge. And since she's from America, I knew it would be a really long time, probably years before I even get to anything by her. But I have read her before. She's basically the queen of the Southern Gothic genre. If you've never heard of that before, I'll put something on the screen for you. I love her work. I have read a few of her short stories before. Probably was a missed opportunity to not get a book by her when I was in Savannah, I'm realizing now, but that's okay. So anyway, they had a whole section on her. I thought that was cool. What I actually ended up getting, 2 books. One of them is a book that I'm going to take to a signing if I end up going to it. And then the second book is one that's actually on my challenge list for my Reading Around the World challenge. So the first one is Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zauner. I have read this, loved it. I remember doing like a bullet journal spread on it because I loved it so much. If you have been living under a rock and somehow do not know what this book is about, she finds out that her mom has cancer. It's already kind of in a late stage, and it's her recounting the sort of tumultuous relationship that she had with her mom. It's about family, but it's also about food. That's kind of the big thing that people really seem to like about it. I think she narrates the audiobook, and so I think I listened to it. So maybe I never had a physical copy of it. Anyway, I have one now, and I will attempt to get it signed at some point in the near future. So the second book is Gabriel Garcia Marquez's 100 Years of Solitude. So this is for my Reading Around the World challenge. This will be for Colombia. If you're wondering about this whole challenge that I've mentioned, I have a a video about it, part 1 that is up. It's going to be something that I'm working on for probably years to come. I knew I was antsy to kind of get back into the car and start driving and get to somewhere new. And I had this one in my hands because I had passed through the memoir section already. And I was like, I just want to keep looking for a little bit and just see if I can find one more thing. And in the back of my mind was this challenge that I'm doing. I thought it would be so cool if I found a book that was like translated. I kept looking for a section of like translated works. I didn't find one. I guess I could have asked. They probably had one. And so I thought maybe I'll just like stumble upon something. And I knew that this was already on my list to read for Columbia because I've got like a whole spreadsheet going on. And so I had kind of already decided that this was going to be the one that I would read for Columbia. And then I happened to see it on the shelf and I thought that's like so serendipitous that I happened to be thinking about it and then saw a book that's on that list. So of course I had to get that one as well. Now, because I only got 2 books at that bookstore, I thought I would show you guys a little haul. There's 5 books here that I bought recently, books that I've been meaning to read. They've been kind of on my TBR for a really long time. I don't think that any of these are actually going to apply to my Reading Around the World challenge, but that is okay. These are completely random, all totally different genres, like they're kind of all over the place. First off is a book of poetry. I can't remember who I first saw reading this. I think it was probably somebody on Instagram, but it's Daughter Drink This Water by Jaya John. I could be totally mispronouncing his name. The blurb kind of compares this one to The Prophet, if you guys have ever read that. I read it I think a couple of years ago. I don't really remember anything about it, but it's supposed to be that same kind of vibe. The blurb describes it as a love song. It says it's a timeless affirmation for girls and women in particular, and all people who are nurturing a beautiful life. It feeds you short devotional passages in an ancestral voice that penetrates the heart and reveals the divine nature of your phenomenal journey. I think originally I thought it was poetry. I thought it was going to be a book of poems. It's just going to be one of those books I kind of dip in and out of. I'm probably not going to like sit down in one sitting and finish it. But it'll just be something when I kind of feel like I need something a little bit uplifting. This will be the one that I go to. Then next is a Mary Oliver book. This is her poetry book called Dream Work, which won a Pulitzer. I'm very excited for this because I recently read Upstream and was pretty blown away. Upstream was really, really beautiful. So I thought Dream Work might be a really good next one to read. This would actually be good to take on like a summer trip or something because it's so light, or like reading in the park, that kind of thing. Next is another Abraham Hicks book. This one is The Astonishing Power of Emotions. Let Your Feelings Be Your Guide. I have like a whole collection by them. Money and the Law of Attraction, The Vortex, The Power of Deliberate Intent. They're all so good. They're those types of books where it's like they're kind of saying the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. The only time that I ever feel like I'm in the vortex is when I'm actively reading one of these books. There's almost something comforting about it being so repetitive. But I love these books. I feel like emotions are really the key to unlocking a lot of things about ourselves that we maybe don't quite understand. Sort of self-help, more like body, mind, spirit. It's good to take a break from like fiction and just pause and do something that's a little bit more self-reflective sometimes. So I do love these. All right, 2 more. Next up is The Art of Frugal Hedonism, a guide to spending less while enjoying everything more. And I've always kind of thought of myself as a hedonist, you know, like I feel like life should be very comfortable. It's full of like photos and stuff. I think it might be like a fairly quick little, almost like a how-to guide kind of thing. I'm a little bit skeptical, to be completely honest. I don't usually like books that are kind of telling you like how to live a certain way. It's interesting. It's caught my attention for sure. And then lastly, we have The Journals of Captain John Smith. I picked this one up because I am obsessed with that Terrence Malick film, The New World, which came out in 2005. It's so beautiful. It's like 3 hours long. Basically the story of John Smith and Pocahontas. It's definitely a very kind of slow, quiet romanticized version. And so I've bought this to try to actually get to the heart of the real story. I feel like we all think of like the Disney movie when we think of Pocahontas, and that's probably just, you know, a very skewed version of what actually happened. So I'm hoping actually reading his journals will give me some insight into that time in history. It was such an important time when you consider what was happening in like the 17th century and people coming over from different parts of the world and like first contact, and all of that is really fascinating. So I honestly don't have any intentions to read this anytime soon, but when I do, hopefully I feel like I maybe know a little bit more about the actual real story. Alright guys, that is everything. You let me know if you live in a city in, let's keep it to America, where you feel like you have a really cool, or maybe even multiple local bookstores, like independently owned bookstores. Put that in the comments for me because I'm very curious. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you're reading, and I will see you next time. Bye.